So I have a question for you. What's the best email marketing platform for creators? It's ConvertKit. It combines powerful automation with an easy-to-use interface. The heart of their business is their visual automation tool that allows you to deliver the right message to your audience at the right time. They have pre-built landing pages and forums, so creating and sending out copy is extremely easy. I personally use it with my business when I'm doing webinars. And you can use it too. Right now, we have an exclusive offer for you. ConvertKit is giving you a freemium membership with full access to the landing pages, forums, and email marketing for free, up to 1,000 subscribers. They are one of the only platforms that allows you to add your Facebook pixel to it for free. It allows you to create automation, and it allows you to get the ball rolling with your business. And of course, it integrates with Shopify, Wix, Squarespace, Gumroad, and a ton of other platforms. So what you're going to do is you're going to hit the podcast description and click the link there to get you to this freemium account. It's an amazing service, so make sure you try it out, guys. Let me know how it goes for you. I want to know. All right, let's get into the show.
The first guest is about taking that shot, right? Taking that chance. And I shot my shot at a guy called Ryan Serhant from New York Million Dollar Listing. He was the first huge guest I got. He was shooting a YouTube video at the time. He had a vlog series. We were able to be on that vlog series, and it completely took off. He gave us a viral moment. We left a comment on the page telling people where they can listen to the full episode. And to my astonishing, I woke up the next day, he pinned that comment where it took the number one space, and we had over 70,000 downloads.
Podcast. I'm Alex.
And I'm Owen.
And this is the podcast where you receive stories, tips, and strategies from entrepreneurs who've done it to grow your business and take yourself to the next level as a person. Later today on the podcast, we have Shawn Anthony. Shawn is the podcaster at Schools Over Now What, and he's also the owner and founder of Now What Academy. And he has a great business. He's a full-time podcaster. So we're going to get into his story and some tactics for you as podcasters to really become a better entrepreneur and better podcaster. So I'm excited about that. Yeah, Owen, what's good with you, bro? How's your week?
Week's been blessed. This has been this podcast with Shawn Anthony we got coming up. If you are a up and coming podcaster or you're interested in learning about podcasting, Shawn is like a true expert into the field. He's done it. He's built his podcast. He's built his brand up from ground up using Clubhouse, using social media, and he shows you the blueprint on how to do it. So even for us as seasoned podcasters right now, over the past 14 months with the catalog we've built, we still learned a lot from Shawn and how to go on about things. You can always learn something new. So if you're a podcaster, this is the episode for you. But other than that, Alex, bro, I'm good. The weather has picked up heavily. I live beside Sugar Beach here in Toronto. If you guys know what Sugar Beach, it's like a quasi beach near the waterfront with sand and beach umbrellas. So it's always good just to walk there and, have some meditation, see people chilling, having some fun. So I'm excited to do that. And this weekend is long weekend. You got 4 days. Okay, Friday, Saturday. Yeah, let's not count Friday, but Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So how am I going to use my time this weekend? I know we can grind, but I want to do something that's social. I want to drink a little bit, enjoy the sun, enjoy life, bro. There's more to life than grinding. You get me?
That's a fact. There's more to life than the grind. But, man, I'm excited for the summertime. My birthday's coming up.
June 1st, baby.
June 1st, So if y'all want to send me a gift, feel free to send me a gift. My DMs is open.
Can they Cash App you or something or PayPal you?
Oh, my goodness. You know what? I should DM me, y'all. DM me and you set it up for sure. Send me some. You can make something happen. My DMs is open at Elevated Alexander. I'll put that in the description below, like I always do.
Just get people to PayPal you $1. Just $1. The dollar strategy, bro. We're talking about J. Cole's Dollar in a Dream Tour. Imagine if you can get your fans just to send you $1 for your birthday. You get me? And then buy yourself a bottle. Amazing. That'd be amazing, bro.
Word. Actually, yeah. If you guys can send me a bottle of Bel Air, that would be chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss, man.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, yo, some news is happening in the entrepreneurship world. You know, Shopify and Google are officially partnering up. You know, what do you think about this, man?
You know, we're learning about this in real time.
Yeah, let me
Shopify
pull
and
it up for
Google.
you. Let me pull it up for
Alex,
you
can you
right
pull that up?
now. Oh man! All right, I pull it up right now. Listen, yo, I give Jamie credit, yo, because the speed is like incredible. Just to do this on here is tough. All right, you see my screen? Google partners with
Yep.
Shopify on online shopping expansion. To read it quickly, Google announced today it's partnering with Shopify, giving the e-commerce platform more than 1.7 million merchants the ability to reach customers through Google Search and its other services. The integration will allow merchants to sign up in just a few clicks to have their products appear on Google's 1 billion shopping journeys. This will take place, every day through Search, Maps, Images, Lens, and YouTube. What the hell is Google Lens? You might forget Google Lens, bro.
Google Lens, I think it might have been I think that was a Google Glass. That was Google Glass. I'm not sure what Google Lens is, so I'll have to learn more about that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there has been exclusive details released, but this could be really big, you know, especially for Shopify merchants that have both a brick and mortar and online stores. You know, this could really be big for people who are on maps. People are searching for a specific thing. Let's say I'm looking for clothing downtown Toronto, you know, or even yoga downtown Toronto. Yawa Kamal could possibly be something if she had a physical store, you know, or let's say Get Fresh on Queen Street, right? This is opportunity for them to leverage things like Maps and YouTube. So, because right now I don't believe YouTube and Shopify like work together. It looks like Shopify is like really making competitive advantages, right? They have Facebook on them to merge with Instagram and Facebook Shops.
Yep.
And now they have Google. So it's looking pretty sad for WooCommerce, Squarespace. They got to figure out Weebly.
Yeah, Wix. You know, the thing is, my hesitation on this is how excited I personally was when we were talking about Instagram integration with Instagram Shops, or Facebook integrating with your Shopify store where you can like do things on Facebook. You know, Facebook has over 1 billion people. You can have like your fan base and everything, but you're finding it a lot tougher to get your products seen. Like, for example, like we thought Instagram shopping will be able to be a great converting channel because you have a lot of people who can shop. They can look at your product. If they've interacted with your page, they click on the shop tag at the bottom, they'll be able to see your product, but it rarely ever converts. And these are like based off your interest. So why is that? So my only hesitation with this is, even though this leads to more exposure, but how is it going to convert? Like, what can you do to like make your product convert? Because I can look at us. We've done a great job of setting up an Instagram shop. We've built a community, but we've tagged our products in a lot of our posts, which get great engagement.
Right,
so why
boom.
is that?
So boom. So take this in. What's different about this versus the Facebook, Instagram update with Shopify is the fact that this will be matching SEO. So if I'm a makeup girl, I can start doing tutorials for, let's say, I don't know, foundation, and have my Shopify store right under it on YouTube, for instance. You know how YouTube has those other stores that are kind of under it, but it's like Teespring or some random...
Teespring, yeah, exactly.
You know? But once they integrate that with Shopify, like the makeup girls are going to go crazy. The DIY people are going to go crazy. There's going to be a lot of opportunities with this new update, for sure. Without a doubt. So listen,
I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
People are definitely going to eat off this. And it's crazy how, as like time goes on, the how easy e-commerce is becoming, how opportunities are expanding for anybody essentially with a platform. You could have 2K subscribers, but if you have one hit video and you have a link towards like a digital download Google spreadsheet that it's like $10, someone, hey, like I made this Excel sheet, you can do this. They go download as a digital product on your web store. It's legit opened the game up for anybody to eat. Anybody.
most definitely. I think we're in probably the greatest advertising like opportunity of like history
Ever.
right now. Ever. Yeah. It's probably the biggest opportunity. And that's why so many Black women are seeing opportunities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they can now put everything that was not available to them on their business. So honestly, it's just incredible. But yo, let's get into this pod, man. We've been talking for a minute. Oh, before we even get into it, we have switched our covers.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
A lot of people liked. If you haven't seen our cover yet, it's probably, if you're listening to this podcast, that's the cover we ended up choosing. But if you can go back to our Instagram page, we had 4 options. The number 1 option is Alex and I standing beside each other. Number 2 was us sitting on like a stoop together, like staggered a little bit. Number 3 was us back to back, like we're on the cover of back to back, like I'm on the cover of Lethal Weapon, right? And then number 4 was just a cropped out version of like a pic we took over at my place, and we had a yellow background, etc. It was like basically arts and crafts, but ultimately the decision was number 1 and 3. People liked number 1 and 3, bro. Why are you let's start with you, bro. Why don't you like number 3?
Number 3, man, all right, so if you look at the number 3, it looks kind of googly eyes, looks crazy. But how do people like number 3, man? It made me think of I was telling you, it made me think of those hit songs that people actually don't like, but everyone else likes. So just like, I mean, I guess,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what comes to mind.
For me, I didn't like the way my neck, I don't know what it is, but just the way, like, when my turn, it's like there's like a little line on my neck, which made me look like I'm stuffed up a little bit. Yeah. No one else can notice it, but I, as a person, I notice it. So that's why I'm kind of like, and as well too, I told you, it kind of gives me very prom-y vibes, right? Like it's like
prom-y?
It's like like you see the lights behind the trees. It's like we're back to back.
You look like a gay couple. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. It looks very soft, bro. Like, but number 1, it's like it's you and I, right? It's our brand. Right. Like that's the synergy we have, So it clearly displays that in the number 1 option pick. But people like number 3. I think ultimately, bro, it's a very wholesome picture, and I think that's why people enjoy it.
Yeah, it looks very wholesome, very happy.
Mm-hmm.
Let's smile.
Smile.
But shout out to y'all, man. We appreciate everybody that came out. We had a lot of engagement, so shout out to everybody, man. With that said, let's get into the podcast with Shawn Anthony. Shawn, if you're listening, respect for coming on the podcast. Let's get into it. Anything else you want to say before
thanks a lot, Shawn. No, big ups to Shawn. He's doing a lot of great things in the podcasting space and in the community. So we just got to keep championing each other and keep elevating.
That's a fact. Before you get out of here, that's so big, man. More people championing each other. More Torontonians championing each other. Because, Shawn is not from here, but, in the Toronto community, shout out to everybody that's doing a podcast, that's creating their own content, that's trying to make something different. We see you, we appreciate you, and keep on going.
Yeah. Right. I also just add to that, Al, it's not a competition. It's honestly not. A lot of people in this content space, whether you have a YouTube channel, podcast, whatever you're doing creatively, there is no ranking here. There's no whatever. Think about it, the world is huge. You can create an audience of 1 million people, and there's still billions of people you can still attract with your thing. Don't look at to the left or right or try and bring down another person. If you see someone doing great work, boost them up. Just say, hey, you're doing amazing. Like if we're in the business podcast space, yeah, we want to be great. But if another podcaster is doing great, that's amazing. Well, let's bring them onto our platform. There's more than enough food to go on around. Everybody can eat. Everybody can be successful. And we're only going to be successful if we continue uplifting each other, because that's the way to elevate. It takes a village to raise the bar.
That's a fact. I couldn't have said it better myself. All right, guys. Hop into the podcast with Shawn Anthony. Peace, y'all.
Let's go.
Hey, what's up, guys? To support this show for free, here are some main options. If you're on Apple, make sure you rate and write a review of our podcast. This This makes a huge difference and helps support the show. If you're on Spotify, follow us. If you're on Google Play, hit subscribe and auto download so you'll be notified and have a fresh pod ready to go when we drop. Lastly, make sure you share the podcast on Instagram or whichever social platform you use and tag us. On Twitter, we're at 24/7 Hustlers. On Instagram, we're at 24/7 Hustler. And on Facebook, we're Hustle Over Everything. And now, guys, you gotta pay attention to this point. We just dropped a new newsletter. It's called The Underrated. It's a weekly newsletter that breaks down untold stories that highlight game-changing business strategies that shape our sports, music, and culture. It drops once a week on Mondays, early in the morning, to prep you for the week. So subscribe to that, and we'll see you in the pod. All right, Shawn, welcome to the show. How are you?
Let's get it, man. I'm glad to be here, man. I told y'all before y'all press that record button, y'all black. I said, let's do it. Let's get it.
It's a trifecta,
rare.
man. Yeah,
man. It's beyond rare, man. So I'm in rare Wale. Screw me. I'm rooting for everybody that's black mode right now.
Mm-hmm. Facts. I love that music video too, man. This like the little minutiae of being black, little things you see that no one else sees. You know what I'm saying? So without a doubt. And you're currently in North Carolina right now, just moving. How has that move been for you so far?
Man, the move is crazy. This might be your first ever podcast you guys do, and a phone might ring. It might be the guy who cutting the grass. You never know what's about to happen. So if you're moving, please be advised. Make sure you have all the brown boxes ready because it's been crazy.
Most definitely, man. To get things started, you're the host of the Schools Over Now What podcast. Let's talk about the person you were when you just finished school. What were you thinking when you were just leaving school? What was your mind state like? Walk us through that.
Yeah, man. When I was leaving school, man, when we talk about college, I went to a HBCU, Winston-Salem State University. I was the party guy. I was the guy who was throwing the parties. I was the guy you would call to skip the line to VIP, the guy that would put all the pretty girls in the booth. That was me. Mm-hmm. So after college, I kept doing that. Then I quickly started to realize that everybody was going back to their hometown. They were, they just weren't around anymore. And then I knew there was a different crowd. I didn't want to keep catering to the younger and younger crowd. So I took the same skills I was doing with partying, networking, marketing, meeting new people, influence, celebrities, performers. I took those same skills and I went corporate. So I went corporate for 4 years, and I was promoted 6 times in those 4 years. And then it wasn't until I took a job that took me 6 hours away from my family where I stumbled across podcasting, and I created Schools Over Now What, and it's completely changed the game for me.
Going back to corporate, like what were you doing like in your corporate job? What company was it? And what led you to be promoted 6 times?
Yeah, man. I was working. It's so funny. No one's ever asked me the company. This is gold. So I was working for Macy's, and I was on a fast track. So I got labeled very quickly on like this accelerated program. And I was just going through jobs. You name the titles, you name the management levels. I was just going through them to the point where I was over all of cosmetics in like Virginia. So when I was doing those things, I learned a lot, right? I was presenting in front of CEOs of the company. I was presenting in front of people who are making like $300,000 and more all the time. But what I paid attention to is what they were saying about me. I paid attention to when I started to talk or speak or stand up, how they would lock eyes on what I had to say. And that changed the game for me, understanding that I had value, I had purpose, but I needed to figure out a way to do it where it was only beneficial to me and not them.
No, that's key. I think like almost any entrepreneur should have experience in a corporate job because the structure that you learn and the presentation skills that you learn are second to none. There's certain jargons and certain ways of operating that you learn through working corporate that is impossible to learn just by starting a business on your own. You really have to have that expertise, or at least have someone on the team that's worked it, so you can really get that expertise. I remember listening to John Buscemi. The shoes Buscemi?
Yeah, also gourmet shoes. He did gourmet.
Yeah, gourmet than John Buscemi. Right? Pardon me?
Yeah. With the buckle look on the back, like horseshoe buckle look.
Yeah. It was supposed to be the Hermes bag. I listened to an interview of him, and the first thing he said is, if you're an entrepreneur, you should go work for the company that you're trying to start. And he did that and worked at DC for years. And I was like, why would I do that? Why would I do that? And now after doing that, it makes so much sense because the kind of structure you learn is second to none.
Yeah,
So
man.
what
I'm
was?
gonna cut you off, but a lot of people like that, man. Maverick Carter, right? The guy who's rolling with LeBron James' homie. He went and worked for Nike. They didn't just wake up and become these huge guys in these areas. They learned how they moved and how they shook hands and how they networked, and they just crossed it over. So I think that's cool that you recognize that. But if you look at it, there's so many people that have done that you're right. I think more people should pay attention to it.
That's a
Yeah.
fact.
Also, it also like teaches you how to think too, right? Because like when you're an entrepreneur, like coming out of university, like your thoughts are all over the place. But even recently, like getting back in corporate after school, just the way they think and the way they approach certain things, even if it might be a small project that you think is small, but they're going through like legalities. They're thinking from the end and then working back to like, what can we do to launch this small project that looks like small on paper? But there's so many stakeholders. There's so many things that might go wrong that you got to think about. So definitely, man, I totally agree with you. It's definitely like helped like shape my thinking. Even approaching the podcast, how do we arrange certain things to like grow the content pieces and everything? So it's definitely valuable for sure.
So now, when you stumbled upon your podcast, walk us through launching it and starting to make money from it.
Yeah, man. Well, that's a long one. So I mean, so the process of starting the podcast, you got to think about it. The reason why I started the podcast, keep it all 100, is that I was inspired so much by Evan Carmichael, Chris Drummer, Pav, Ed Mylett, all these guys that I'm mentioning right now have all been on my show. But I realized something real quick. They didn't look like me. There were people that I could reach they could never reach. I was inspired by them, but I knew that we needed the inspiration too. So that's what really got me to say, I want to start this podcast. But not only that, I wanted to bring those type of people onto the show so that the community I come from could gain access. So we could gain access to their knowledge, their wisdom, but most importantly, they have answered the question that we've all asked ourselves, your listeners and you guys included. School's over, now what? What do I do? These guys have figured it out. So the process of that was, how do I go about, getting some of these huge names to be a part of the show so they can tell us their secrets, right? And for me, as far as like the podcast turning into money and turning into revenue, it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. One of the things I paid attention to was what the audience, the listeners were saying every time they listened to an episode. So I did this format where I would go interview, and then I would do a solo. So when I did the solo, I noticed a huge increase also in the listenership, but also I noticed what people were saying about the voice, what I was giving to them, the insights, the wisdom. And people were very interested in learning more from me. And I realized that I can make a huge impact if I taught people what I've learned. So I launched the Now What Academy by August of 2018, where we enrolled hundreds of people and we've coached them. And now we took a bigger focus in elevating people in the podcasting space and helping them build a brand through podcasting.
To rewind things a little bit, Shawn, right? So you're talking about podcasting, you're going from corporate, then you stumble upon a podcast that, gives you this inspiration to like launch things to the next level, right? So you have a very entrepreneurial mind, like, that's like the, who you are. Did you have any other entrepreneurial endeavors that you're thinking about before like stumbling upon podcasting? Like as you're leaving corporate, was podcasting like the only thing that you wanted just to go ahead and do?
Podcast, I didn't even know what it was. It didn't even exist. It wasn't even on my radar. I didn't even think about it. For me, it goes back to when I was 14. When I was 14, my brother went out to college and he became a big nightlife party promoter. So at 14, I got exposed to all the clubs. I was in VIP with bottles, you name it. That's how I learned how to network. That's how I learned marketing. That's how I learned skill set. And I remember throwing my first party at 14. I threw a graduation party. I want y'all to imagine this. Imagine a 14-year-old having the guts to throw a graduation party for high schoolers. I did it, and I made $6,000 that night, the very first party I ever did. So that embedded into me a thought process of hustling and really going after it. And that's what I did throughout, finishing high school to college. So if you were to ask me what other entrepreneurship journey could I saw myself doing, one, I could have had my own nightlife building. I could have done partying forever, but there's a lot of liabilities with that. There can be, there could be a shootout, which I've seen. There could be, an accident. All those things are ways that, that club could be closed, right? It could become a liability instead of an asset. If I look at what I was doing in college, I ran with a lot of ball players. So in terms of attracting the celebrities and the big names, there was a lot of NBA players or people that were in the NBA when I was in college that were big in North Carolina or from North Carolina that I would just bring to maybe like a comedy show. I remember I brought to Winston-Salem State comedy show, I brought John Wall. John Wall was the number one NBA draft pick. I threw his birthday party in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I also took him to my college. Quincy Miller, PJ Harrison, all these guys. And the reason why I say that is because there was a time when I look back now and you look at, Maverick Carter, you look at, Rich and all those guys, Rich Paul and all those guys. Dude, that was a thought of process for me as well. So there's a lot of things from an entrepreneur standpoint that I could see myself could have done, but with podcasting, I saw the impact immediately, what it was doing for people, and I just saw the longevity behind it.
How much money were you making as a party promoter?
Oh God, dude! So I would do 3 parties, depending on what year you're talking about. So I would do 3 parties. I would do a party on Thursday night. I would wake up at 8 a.m. and I would go to a biology class. I would do a party at Friday night. Then I would go to sleep, and then Saturday night we would have like celebrities, a little Boosie, you name it. And guys, this was like during like the Swagger Like Us, Soulja Boy at his highest levels, Kanye at his highest levels, Young Jeezy at his highest level time frame. Mm-hmm. So if we're talking like a regular Thursday through Saturday, you're talking about anywhere between maybe $5,000 to $12,000. You're talking about from those regular days. But if you're talking about like a homecoming, like I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with North Carolina, but you're talking about North Carolina A&T and greatest homecoming on earth in Winston-Salem. You could do that at night. And I think it was just so cheap. It was just so cheap. The expenses, all you're paying for is security. And that particular time, you would just let them keep the bar. You're very good if you can work out a bar deal. But several thousands of dollars every single week.
Yeah, man. Like $6,000 at 14. Like the first time you probably touched that money at 14, like it must have been like a rush. And I think like every entrepreneur has that feeling, right? I remember even when my mom was telling me to go, get a job like Tim Hortons, like back at my parents' house. And I was just like, I don't want to do that. It's like spring break-ish around that time to get a job. And I decided to like go shovel driveways, right? Like charge like $25 per driveway. And by the end of it, like I made like 350 in one weekend. And that would have been like a full paycheck if I had done like a Timmy's shift maybe 2-3 times a week. Like both weeks I'd have made that money, but I made that in like 4 total hours of work, right? And that was like my big epiphany right there. Like, man, this like owning your own business and being in control of your own time and having autonomy, that is like, it was like I don't know, man. It's like a euphoric feeling, like just going to bed and I was like, man, I'm just holding this cash. I made it in 4 hours and it would have taken me like bare time to do it over 2 weeks. I'm sure that's what you probably felt too. Like I'm making like $6,000 in one night.
Yeah, at 14. Yeah, man, we're just taking pictures with money, man. I think when you look at it though, you get wiser and smarter. But at the same time, I look back at it, the guys who were the owners still were smarter than us. Think about it. We were teenagers. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is this. Like for instance, like a Thursday night, there would be like a flat fee where they would pay us. So you tell us at a young age, hey, here's $2,000 every single Thursday. You're gonna say, all right, cool. I never had it anyway. But as you sit back and observe and watch, you're like, yo, I could have made more than that in 1 hour. And it's just about structuring the right deal instead of like. So we got smarter. Instead of like doing the flat fees, we started asking for percentages. And with that comes where, you start learning more about money, the expenses side of it, the P&L side of it, the profit and loss when you're paying for security, DJ, all those things. So if anything, man, bro, it just made me so much wiser.
Yeah, honestly, I'm curious because being a party promoter during that time, you bump heads with so much celebrities, right? What was one celebrity that really impressed you by their personality and their character?
Trying to think of 2 people. They were. I think now I look back at them, they're so different now. 2 people that surprised me with character, and one of them surprised me with how fast he can ignite a crowd, and the crowd gets violent. Waka Flocka. He had that, oh, let's do it.
Yeah.
He had that, oh, let's do it. Oh my goodness, he would jump. He would jump off of the stage and go directly in the crowd. Like, with so much energy, and just looking back at it, like, you had to be really free to do that. Like, I'm not sure a lot of people do that nowadays. And he had the hottest song in the whole entire thing. And what I mean by that is a couple things. Hold on 1 second, y'all. Y'all, we still good? We clear?
Yeah, we good.
We're still good.
All right, so I would say Waka Flocka for sure. Outside of Waka Flocka, can you pause this?
Yeah, for sure.
Let's take a quick break, everybody. 1 moment. So we're back. Now, just to recap the question, out of the personalities that you met in the clubbing scene, who was one of your favorite personalities that stood out to you?
Yeah, man. First off, it's easy. Waka Flocka, man. Like, I was in the party game when Oh Let's Do It was the hottest thing out. And I remember getting him. It's so funny now because when I think about it, like, the price of artists was so cheap back then. They would never be this amount. And I remember turning down artists. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, I should have just paid for it. Well, I'm just thinking about it. I remember when Wiz Khalifa was so easy to reach. You can just call the one guy, it was a white guy, he was probably still rocking with him. I think his name was Will, with Taylor Gang. You could call him, and Wiz was like right beside him. And I remember I could have got him for $3,000, and I said no. You probably can't get Wiz Khalifa to shake your hand for $3,000 now. But by far, one of the most craziest personalities, like popping, live energy, Waka Flocka all day. He would jump in the crowd. He would get everybody hyped. There's so much danger nowadays. Not too many artists would do that. The artist who, surprisingly to me, who caused the most violent scene I ever seen happen in the club when you're looking for the exit is Trick Daddy. So we had Trick Daddy, man, and Trick Daddy had certain songs that are like so street. And I remember a song he played, and I was sharing it with my wife because it just brought back so many memories. I remember he played this song called, like, It's a Certain Way I Fold My Flag. And when he played that song, I guess he got to arguing with somebody in the audience. He didn't care about the music anymore. He stopped doing the music, cut the beat, and they just like jumped in the crowd. Chairs was flying, people's hair was flying, and you was trying to get out of there. So many different artists, man. But those two, they really stand out to me. And then there's always the artists that just have a different aura about them, where it's just like so boss. Like Rick Ross is just the movement, it's just such a different aura. So those are some of the ones that really stand out.
You met Rick Ross? Tell us about that story, because you know we're Bel Air boys over here, man. So walk us through meeting Rick Ross.
Yeah, man. So it's a couple different ways, man. Like it was homecoming, it was anti-homecoming. He pulls up, and it's so funny now I think about it, because a lot of these artists back in my party days, a lot of these celebrities in the podcast space that I've met have very similar auras, where you kind of know, oh, okay, like you can kind of see the correlation. That's why when I tell people all the time about podcasting, like, yo, Shawn, how you want to move? Dude, I'm just gonna move like an artist, because I felt the aura. It feels the exact same. So with Rick Ross, as soon as he pulls up, it already knows the Maybachs, it's the security, it's the black Chevys, it's all those things, and he's getting escorted around the room. As he's getting escorted around the room, it's like the music stopped and the spotlight just went around his head and just followed him all the way around the room. But when you see guys like that, before they even speak, they command a presence. So I took those same things I'm noticing from all these celebrities. I bring that same type of energy when I'm meeting other celebrities in the podcast space, because one thing I've learned is people will know immediately within 30 seconds if you're really about what you're talking about. But most importantly, you want to show them that you're just as worthy as they are.
Mm-hmm. And Shawn, like when you were like in the party space, what was that transition period that like made you decide, you know what, this scene is no longer for me?
It took a while, man.
Yeah,
it took a while, man. I think as it got younger, and because I always ran with street teams, so I would have like 30 college kids beating down dorm room doors for me. When I saw all 30 of them, and I would change up every year, be a different person, different group of 30, or be the same people. When I started to see them leave, that's when I kind of knew, like, you know what, I don't know if I really wanted to keep doing this. And I saw the market change and demographic change, and I just didn't want to be that guy in his 30s, partying with a bunch of, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds. And then the market that would be my market would happen, one time a year. Now, homecoming would come, and I would still eat. But I just knew I just didn't want that to keep going. I knew I wanted to keep doing something that I felt comfortable doing, but most importantly, I was rocking with my same crowd.
Yeah. I also want to say, like, my friend too, like when I was working at the gym, he was like a promoter. Like he had a side income as a promoter, like here in downtown Toronto. And he was telling me, like, man, this lifestyle can get taxing on your body, right? Because you're drinking like 3 times and you're drinking heavy, right? And then as well too, you never know, like a pandemic can just wipe you out. So now that was like his main source of income. Now like it's gone. He was drinking every single weekend, every single week. Then he comes to work late. So there's also like the negative sides of it, like where just drinking alcohol every single night as part of your job can just deteriorate your health over time. And then
Oh God.
unforeseen circumstances can just wipe out your business. And now when you come back, it's like you're older. You're like, man, like the same crowds have gone back home. Like who do you, like your contacts are spread out. It just seems like a business you build like sandcastle, but it's just wiped out at any second, bro.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that the real way though, you guys talked about it earlier. Is like, yeah, what do you see yourself doing? I identified ways I could have transitioned though. So instead of being the guy throwing the parties, the way to transition is to become the owner. The way to transition is to become the guy who owns the bar, the guy who owns the building, the guy who rents it out to them. So I saw the possibility of a transition, but you're right, man. You could be doing drugs all the time. Good thing for me, I was never heavily involved in any of those things, but I did see it happen to a lot of the people I broke bread with a lot.
Damn. Yeah, it's real, you know. Well, you're in that situation, you're the sum of the 5 people around you, right? So if you keep putting yourself in those situations, you're either going to become it or going to have to figure out a way out. And
Yeah,
I
but
was
at the same time, I say this though. I ran with 5 people you wouldn't even expect. So I ran with the athletes, the street dudes. Like if you guys were to see me back in college, you would think they were bodyguards because they were all 6 feet big, brolic, but at the end of the day, they all came from a different angle. So we dominated, I think, the party space because we were able to reach all these different people and bring them together. We could bring the most bougiest, prettiest girls you can imagine, and we could bring the streetest dudes out, and we could bring the Kappas out, we could bring the Greeks out, you name it. I think that's what made us successful, is that the 5 people that, fortunately for me, that I hung around brought in money in a whole different market.
That's real. All right, so now let's fast forward a bit and get into the podcast game. You know what I'm saying? So, walk us through the first 3 podcasts, because that's kind of some of the toughest ones, right? The first few, getting in that rhythm, right? How'd that go for you? And what lessons were you starting to learn as you started to grow your podcast?
Yeah, man. The first 3, man. I tell people all the time. The first episode should be, "Who are you?" Right? Who are you? And I told people exactly who I was, the way we talked about today, right? From 14 up. Second episode is what people can expect. I knew the format. I wanted to interview people. And the third episode, I just started to delivering it. Fortunately for me, that's how I launched. And it took the ability of me to send those 3 episodes out to one of my homeboys who said, "Nah, man, tell them who you are first." And it worked so well for me, and it worked so well for my clients.
Yeah, you speak a lot about like you have this phrase, tell your story, and you've been talking about it on every different medium that you've been on. I hear it's like a really important part of you. Like, talk to our audience about what telling your story means, because if you don't have a story, if you're not the athlete, if you didn't have like this prestigious background, you're just a regular person, how can one person tap into their inner self and find that story that's compelling towards creating an audience, let's say?
Powerful question, man. That story, that's telling a story. Here's the thing. A lot of us don't think our story is important. We had to find that adversity at a time we almost gave up. What made us who we are today? That's the piece you tell, right? I'm not standing in front of you guys if I didn't throw parties. I'm not standing in front of you if I didn't make 6,000 at 14. I'm not standing in front of you if I didn't go take a job that took me 6 hours with my family and I stumbled across a weird looking purple app and I never knew podcasting existed. But you got to find those things in your story that made you who you are today in the moment you're in right now. So I say channel your inner childhood. Channel that job that told you no, and that's how you do it.
Definitely, man.
When it came to getting these first celebrities on, was it from your relationships with party promoting, or did you just have to organically go out and create it?
Yeah, man. A lot of the guys I had at my parties are street hood artists, R&B. No. So the way I did it was I identified who that I really watch on TV that I felt like would give people aha moments. the first guest. It's about taking that shot, right? Taking that chance. And I shot my shot at a guy called Ryan Serhant from New York Commando Listing. He was the first huge guest I got. He was shooting a YouTube video at the time. He had a vlog series. We were able to be on that vlog series, and it completely took off. He gave us a viral moment. We left a comment on the page telling people where they can listen to the full episode. And to my astonishing, like I woke up the next day, he pinned that comment where it took the number one space, and we had over 70,000 downloads. So for me, it was about shooting that shot, going after who I really wanted to go for. But the only way you can make that happen is aligning them with your mission. My mission was education. My mission was the answers. I felt as if he would give that to the people. And it was about pitching him that way, which got him on the show. And then it becomes a domino effect. Now you have somebody of caliber in your show, and now you can start, utilizing their name, things they've been featured on, to land you more guests.
Let's break that down a bit, because this is where a lot of net new podcasters slip. How'd you pitch him? How'd you even reach out to him? Was it through a DM? Did you scrape his email through like a email scraper? Walk us through that. Those little things can make a big difference for somebody.
Absolutely, man. The way I got a hold of him, man, simply put, it was Instagram. It was Instagram, finding his email address, which is completely different now, by the way. So finding his email address, pitching, that particular email by outlining first what the show is about, what I plan on doing with the show, and then most importantly, how I felt he would add value and why we selected him out of all the people. And I think that's what really stood out. And also, I paid attention to what he had going on. Mm-hmm. He had a new book he was about to release. He wanted press. He wanted PR. So a real hack is find out who wants to be a new author, who has a new book, and making your pitch that way.
That's a big fact. It's a big gem. That's how we got Mario Armstrong on the podcast. We slid in his DMs. We, spoke to the value of what he'd be on the show to talk about, the actual heart of it. We were working on the Rapper Go to the League platform at the time, so that made a huge difference. And that's actually how we connected with you. He's the one who suggested you to be on the show. So shout out to Mario.
Solid guy.
Very solid guy. So go ahead on.
I was gonna ask. So now you're a very seasoned podcaster in the community, and if you're looking back then, and you compare now, what would you have done differently in your launch plan?
Launch plan would have been exactly the same. And the reason why I say that, because now I coach people how to do it and I see it work. I think what I would have done differently, though, if you look at the first 6 months of me doing a podcast from June till December of 2018 when we launched it, I was still connected with heavy hitters, big names. I would have flown to every single one of them. If I could do anything different, I would have flown to every single one. There is a huge breakthrough once you're standing beside somebody that someone else admires. So when I start being seen in photos and physically in front of Myletts, the Grant Cardones, the David Metzlers, and people see these things, it already elevates you. One, not only from a visual standpoint from your audience, but also to them. They're like, yo, this dude really flew across the country. He ain't playing. So I think that I would definitely fly.
That's big. That's very big. We're thinking about going to Atlanta to close some big interviews, and that is something that we need to think about now. That you really opened my mind a little bit more, and it's so true. I think it's called the Oprah theory, right? Is that if you interview enough people and stand next to them, eventually people will look at you and be like, "Hey, tell us about you." Right? Mm-hmm. So that's huge. That's huge.
Hey, that's also, if you look at study social media, some of these big names, think about it, right? What's the guy's name that used to hold the umbrella for Diddy? Was it Benjamin? What's his name? Farnsworth Bentley. Farnsworth Bentley used to hold the umbrella for Diddy. After a while, people were like, yo, who that dude? Go back even further. Look at Big Pun. Fat Joe was holding the umbrella for him. Who that dude?
Okay, I ain't gonna let you do that. Fat Joe was not holding the umbrella for Big Pun. Don't play Fat Joe like that.
Rewind the tape, fam. Rewind the tape.
What?
So, but at the same time, we gotta rewind the tape. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Fat Joe held the umbrella, fam.
Get out of here,
Fat Joe. I did not know that.
Yes, fam. Let me so I can find it while I got y'all up here. Right,
bruh. I thought he was rapping. You know what I'm saying? When sitting in sit in the middle of it a little. Okay, I'm not gonna try that shit. But when he
The
was
tongue twister there, bruh.
that's the big
Hey,
pun's
fam,
joint.
what's this right here? Hold on, let me show you. Let me show you. What's this?
You're
What's this right here,
lying.
fam?
You are
What's that right
lying.
there? What's it right there? It's Fat Joe holding the umbrella for pun.
You are lying.
Wow.
I remember it, B. Let's
Wow.
zoom in. That's your man's. And he's dope. He's cool. Don't get it twisted. He's dope, cool, and a huge pioneer for the culture. But by all means, I remember that.
Wow.
Everybody had a moment, bro.
That's
It's
crazy.
just the point where they become the superstar. They don't always be behind lines. Kanye was the guy, doing the beats for everybody. When he started rapping, it didn't take him seriously until he said that one bar in front of Jay. I think that one bar was like
Miracle Whips.
Mayonnaise colored beans. I push Miracle Whips, and I am.
To check
Then I was like, hold on.
25. Yeah, that one.
Oh man! Before I had a house, and now I do it again.
Jeez. You just messed me up with that one, man. No, but that's very true. Ian Connor, was the guy for A$AP Rocky. There's a bunch of those. All right, so now you're rocking now with the podcast. You got Ryan Serhant on. You got some notable faces on. Walk us through the Grant Cardone story.
All right, cool, man. Yeah, the Grant Cardone story, bro. And also too, man, you guys have been dope. So I want to let you know, if you guys hear anything in the background really weird, it's because the guys outside cutting the grass. We told you earlier that we were doing a podcast, and I just moved. The Grant Cardone story, man. Listen, it shouldn't have happened. It couldn't have happened. It couldn't have happened. And the reason why I say that is because I was chasing him down. I want you to grasp this though. Because part of me is like, because I see people now interviewing him and stuff like that, which is dope. It's a hell of a name, huge name on your podcast. But to reach Grant Cardone, the time frame I got him in 2019 is when I finally got him in person. This was before Clubhouse, fam. It was way harder. Clubhouse made a lot of things easy. It was way harder. So he said no. He said no. Let's push it back to December 2018. And I was like, all right, cool. December 2018, I reach out, no response. I reached out around January, February, and now I got more steam. I got more steam on me. I got more names on me. He said, yeah, let's do it. So he said, all right, let's do it. So we agreed to do the podcast. I said, yo, I'm going to fly to you. And I'm going to do it in Miami. And it was a go. I booked all these hotels. I booked flights, you name it. So a week before the podcast, I think it was like 4 days before the podcast, I get a message from his assistant, and she says, hey, sorry, but Grant will no longer be able to meet with you in person. He will have to take your interview over video. And I was like, oh, no, we ain't doing that. I done put I remember getting ready to get a haircut at the barber shop, fam. And I was like, oh, no, we ain't doing that. So I remember some of the people I had connected with previously and how they, said, hey, how can I help you? What can I do for you? And I had just got back from Laguna Beach, and I was with Mylett. And so I texted him. I said, listen, I'm supposed to be in Miami in like 3 days to interview Grant Cardone, but they're kind of funny. You think I should do it? You think I should go down there? I don't really know if I should really make it happen because I was vulnerable. I paid for the flights. I paid for the hotel. I don't really know. He said, yo, you need to go to Miami, and you need to fly to Miami, and you need to go to that building. He said, Grant Cardone was hard for me to get. Show up. And because I reached out to him from the standpoint of like, yo, can you hit him up or something? Like, let him know I'm legit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, can you let the man know? He's like, I can't make no promises, but you need to still go down there. No lie, less than 24 hours. I woke up the next day. It was a brand new spanking email. The email said, hey, Shawn, things have changed and Grant would like to meet with you in person. And I was like, oh, this is crazy. It's going down. So for me, it just showed me the power of making connections while you're podcasting and figuring out who's really real and who's really there for you and who will really, help catapult you to some extent. But that's the Grant Cardone story. That's how it happened. We were in Miami. We showed up with all our cameras, all of our gear. His team was like, forget your stuff. We got our stuff, which I respected. I wouldn't have flown with all that stuff. And they shot the whole thing.
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed that he's very like a stickler for his own thing. When I see my other podcasts, it's always his gear that they're shooting with more times than not. I'm guessing this to keep creative control, maybe. I don't know. But
Well, he got a
control
good
the
team.
narrative.
Like Johnny, he got a good team. Johnny, the camera guy. Shout out to Johnny, who's his guy. He shoots everything, all the 10x, everything. And I think when you spent that much money on equipment, you got your own videographer, people that are with you full time, you want to look the same everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So if you got it, hey, might as well do it.
Yeah, so consistency in branding and image. That makes sense. That makes sense. All right, so now
Most definitely.
let's get to the business. You know what I'm saying? All right, now walk us through how you monetize the podcast and how you build your business up. And are you doing this full time? Am I right?
Yeah, facts. Yeah. So the monetization of the podcast several different ways. Early off, I wanted the channel, and I have to ask anybody right now that's listening to this, yo, look at your community. Look at people who support you, friends, family, your super fans, your people that are really like sharing your content. And start a Patreon. So I started a Patreon where, I would provide exclusive content. I would let them know who was coming to the show before anyone else. I will let them know, give them a little sneak peek at a private, one-on-one, an interview or something that was happening. I would give them access to maybe like a book club that I was starting off. And everything I'm telling you will have a tier. So I have like a $1 if you just support me, right? Mm-hmm. And then I limited the dollar seats. So after like $100 seats, I ain't doing it no more. So now we're talking about 5, 10, 25, and different levels get you more things, whether it's behind the scenes and things like that. So Patreon's one way. The second way is I started running my own infomercials on my podcast. So here's what I mean by my own infomercials. I would literally tell people, hey, if you're enjoying this podcast right now and you're ready to take your brand or business to the next level, download my ebook, right? And I give them a link to the ebook. So the ebook was acquiring me an email list. So as the email list would build, I was able to kind of figure out who really wanted to elevate, whether it's in the branding space or the podcast space. And the next thing I started to do was I started to do webinars and master classes. And of course, at that point, you're charging. You're charging for the webinars. You're charging for the master class. You start learning what your community really likes. You can package all of that up, and you can create an ultimate ebook. So now I have like this ultimate podcasting ebook, which is a combination of those things. But the real high ticket price is where I started talking about the Now What Academy and working with people and brands one-on-one. And that has completely changed the game as far as a high ticket value and getting clients and going forward.
So how much does the average course go for? What are the price points of some of these products?
Yeah, man, great question. So I think if you have a product, a price point of a product, I think the best way to do it is make it affordable for a product standpoint, right? Mm-hmm. So you can grab the ebook for $47. People say, hey, how do I pitch and get these big guests? I got a pitch script, which is my copy and paste. It's an email template. That has a high value, but it's not overly priced. It's at $77. And it's at that price because I know it works. I've seen people still use it and still get it. So you're creating evergreen things, right? You have a webinar. Let's say you have you use Webinar Jam. Webinar has this thing where you can go and pay for Ever Jam. So Ever Jam allows for a webinar to replay. So there's a webinar that sells for $97 about building a brand with podcasting. And then when there's people that work with me one-on-one, there's several different packages starting from $13.97 and up.
Got you. So that's how. So basically, the podcast is like the marketing front end, the content front end, and on the back end, you have an academy, and that's where you monetize from the products that are evergreen that you can purchase whenever you want, and then just your own personal services that you do. Got you.
Absolutely, man.
Got you. And how big is like that gotten for you? Do you have a team now? Is it only you?
Yeah, great question, man. There's a team now from the branding standpoint of me. So like if you see, I'm not spending my time creating all these videos, creating all these graphic arts, creating all these different things. So there is a team behind that aspect. But what I provide from a high ticket standpoint is one-on-one access. So that doesn't require a team. But what I do provide for people that want to work with me in the masses is a bunch of products that are just evergreen. So it doesn't require a team. So you have those evergreen products, the ebooks, the webinars, the pitch scripts, all those things are just evergreen, which has allowed for me to pretty much rock and roll.
Yeah. We were talking about this earlier, like, as we're like building the podcast, like we feel like there's no blueprint for a successful podcast. like there's no textbook the way you can read about, like, finance principles are finance principles. Like whatever you slice and dice it, those rules are the same. With building a CPG brand, like you can like water down and like make everything duplicatable because it's product marketing, whatever. With podcasting, it's such a new space. It's such a like untapped market. Like no one really knows how to like become successful at it. Like over the past, I think, Alex, what's that stat you told me that like a lot of podcasters are coming into space and barely any of them make it past like 10 episodes.
10 episodes. Yeah, 10
10
episodes, what it
episodes,
is.
right?
It's like 80% of them barely make it past 10 episodes. Something like, this is drunk facts, to put our drink champs on.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 80%, something like that, barely make it past 10 episodes. It is tough, So, I want to ask is, who were your first hires? Once you started making money from your first ebook, what was the first hire you made to start, focusing on the revenue and building up the business?
Yeah, man, I think your first hire should be someone that could take off whatever it is that's stressing you the hell out. For me, it was creating micro content. For me, it was someone that could understand what my voice sounds like and the rhythm of what I'm talking about and how to match that up. Right, from a branding perspective, that should be your first hire. If that's something, what's really stressing you out now. If you're enjoying that, that's not what you hire. But if you are struggling at editing your podcast or struggling at pushing out content on multiple platforms, that's the person you hire. That's the best way. But for me personally, it was how can we continue to bring you micro content, figure out what's really working on YouTube, which I'm still trying to figure out to this day, because that can turn into another revenue stream. But also, when you figure out your branding, brands will start coming to you. So I've done plenty of brand deals where I've worked with brands, one time, or pretty much rocked a certain item and sold a certain item and would have revenue from it, as well as being paid to post it. So the way that best answer that question for anybody listening right now is, what's stressing you out? That's who you hire.
That's interesting. What stresses you out? I would have thought you would have gone for what can you leverage to make more money, That's interesting you went that route.
Yeah, man. I mean, you can figure out what makes the most money, but at the same time, after you figure out what makes the most money, you got to figure out, does it make the most sense for your brand?
Got you. Owen, man, that speaks to us, don't it?
Man, like Shawn, like we're like a two-man army. You know what I'm saying? Like we're trying to create micro content. We're building a newsletter, building YouTube. We just picked up Adobe. Like we're trying to juggle it all, and also like we're trying to like a main revenue stream, like where we can say we get revenue is like we started like a merch line, right? Like what you see right now us wearing. So we've been able to sell like t-shirts, sweaters, and everything, but bringing on that person like where you can't say, oh yeah, we make enough revenue to like cover like a 2-person team. Now it's like when we're actually going to craft these deals with advertisers and brands that we think would be synergize with our brand and could say, hey, our audience is a business audience. If we craft this deal like where we create content with your brand and like have it on like a popular guest, this is how we can work together. And this goes back to what I was saying, like there's no blueprint, right? So before, brands were charging like, okay, cost per mile, that's what we'll charge for an ad. But with so many podcasters coming in the space and the average of podcasts barely getting 1,000 plays per episode, you've got to be more creative. You got to be more unique in what your approach with your offer is. And that's what we're trying to figure out. So we've had like 2 calls this week. We fumbled the first one with like a big corporation that, we said, I'm not even going to get into it, but it was like a big lesson. We learned 2 major lessons this week, man, on pitching and like what to do. And, just to be honest, just to be candid, right? Because there's a hustle over everything. So we got to be forthcoming. We realized transparent. So we realized that, we approached like, let's say like GoDaddy, right? So we got a meeting with them that, okay, we're only dealing with shows that have 100K downloads per month or whatever, right? Of course we're not there, but I just showed you like the caliber of like what you've got to be. So if we're approaching that brand now, we got to be more creative and say, we're not that listenership yet, but this is what we can do with all our assets that we have and etc. to make that money coming in. So what might work for me might not work for another podcast with a different audience, with a different community, and a different message towards that brand and what they want. So to all podcasters, just be unique in what you offer and just be creative. I think that's the main thing you got to do this early on when you're building a podcast.
Yeah, you also can look at your other platforms to social media and do a tally up of how many people are in part of that social media and use that as far as your pitch, right? If I wanted to pop the lid off of Podcast Secrets Revealed, which is the club I created in Clubhouse, it has almost 30,000 members. That's a lot of people. You know, you could take a community like that to strictly about podcasting and pitch whatever you want to pitch. So I think you can look at Clubhouse, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, just tally it all up and, you know, with your downloads and make your pitch that way. It might be another avenue for you, another angle.
Yo, that was literally what I said today. That was exactly the move we're making. Just because, you know, I think it's called Run of Network. You know, this for the audience members. Run of network is the term that people consider when they're buying your whole social media, website, everything. Run off your entire network, right? That is a way to finesse deals where you can have a corporate sponsor come in and do the entire network. So that's huge. What lesson and mistake have you done or learned from, pardon me, when it comes to making brand deals? And are brand deals the predominant sense of your business? It was strictly like, what is in the pie chart? Would it be all Patreon that's bringing in the business, or how much is it to brand deals, to Patreon, to ebooks? Walk us through that.
The biggest thing in the business, and I hope anybody take anything from this podcast, the biggest thing in the business is me, fam. I mean about the high end clientele, giving you access to what I'm doing and how I can help you do it, because you can make way more money. That's the big end of the business. As far as like what to do and what not to do brand deals, I remember one time I was considering partnering with a network for my podcast. They wanted everything. They wanted access. They wanted to be a part of it. They wanted to run my show. They wanted a 50-50 split and all these crazy things. And they had hella access to some people too. And I said no. But the smartest thing I did before I said no is to talk about leveraging relationships. I took the contract and I sent it to Beyonce's dad, Matthew Knowles. And he said, "Hey, Shawn, send me the contract." I'm like, who would not send Beyonce's dad a contract? Like, who would not do that? So I sent it to him. He called me. We talked about it. We looked it over. We found ways I could have done it and ways that I probably won't want to do it. But it's just having that ability to bounce ideas off somebody of high caliber, which changed the game for me before I said yes. Will I ever say yes to a network? It just has to be completely in line to what I want to do, right? And I think that's also might be one of the reasons some of these networks that you're starting to see format may have not approached, you know, because a lot of times my wife tells me this, there's different types of people. There are people who should be a part of the team and be all-star players. And there are people who should be the owners who change the game for everybody. And I look back from when I was 14, creating my own team, being in parties, being the only black guy talking to CEOs, leaving corporate, producing a podcast, being one of the few black people to really integrate and show you multiple races on a podcast as a game changer. And maybe that's in the cards for me.
That's big.
That's big, man. That's proper gems. One thing I wanted to ask you, Shawn, is, you know, you've built your podcast with like top level guys, like heavy hitters, like the Mylett, Grant Cardone, Serhant, and everything like that. And, you know, as a podcaster looking at that, you're asking yourself like, okay, if I get this certain guest, is it really going to take my podcast to the next level? And what my question is like, once you had those guests, did you notice, of course you notice an increase in subscribership, but what level of subscribers stayed to your podcast and like continue listening on? Because, you know, like there's this misconception, or I don't know if it is, but we talk about, okay, we need to go after quality guests and guests and guests, but does it translate into people staying and sticking and consuming your content, even though you're not going to have another heavy hitter for perhaps another 8 to 10 episodes?
Man, you don't always need a heavy hitter. Sometimes the heavy hitters be flops. They say the same stuff on every podcast. Mm-hmm. You gotta really dive in your bag to get a heavy hitter to say something they ain't never said before. And I think the way I've gotten some of them to do that is because I was physically in front of them. Right? When I did a podcast with David Matchler at his house. and he damn near cried. The podcast was so crazy after it was over. He didn't care. He didn't want me to leave. I had dinner with his family with his dog in my lap. And I don't even know his dog, and I ain't even a dog guy unless I'm around him, you know. But I'm playing my role, you know what I'm saying? Like, man, but it doesn't matter, man. It doesn't always matter with the big names. What does matter though is what's going on with the big names. That could be the time frame that can make it really hot, though. You know, like, you know, if someone, you know, like right now, like you look at what's trending in the world and what's happening in the world, right? Like Rachel Hollis is like she getting drug out here right now. She's huge in the podcasting space, but she made these comments about a housekeeper and people are not for her. But I promise you this, whoever puts her on a podcast, she has so much controversy, they gonna listen. You know, and that's one thing I learned from OGs like Matthew Knowles, and I say that because I talk to him so much. And I asked him the same question you asked me. I said, hey, man, how can I get better than this? You know what he said to me? And it humbled me a little bit. He said, if I get off this phone with you right now, I call 5 of my friends and I say your name, do they know you? And I'm like, damn. You know what I'm saying? Like, but the part that really stood out to me, he said, man, what you really need is you need some controversy, man. You got to get people up here saying some crazy stuff. He said that's what's really going to get people paying attention. You know, and I, that's my advice to anybody. I kind of forgot your question, but I know that was a gem. But by far, man, that's what I would say.
Yeah, we even saw.
Awesome.
I was gonna say, even the $1 million worth of game, right? They had that Kevin Durant clip where they asked him about who are the top 5 teammates that you played with, and he forgot to mention Russell Westbrook, and that clip was like on ESPN. It was on First Take, Undisputed.
All players are the way to do it, bro. Ball players are the way to do it.
Exactly, right? And now, like, think about that. That's like national, like, TV in the morning. Now they're talking about your show. Think about that exposure just out of controversy, but they were not really looking for controversy. It's like Kevin Durant just said, oh, yeah, like, Westbrook, oh, yeah. Ibaka, then Westbrook.
Chris Drummer Path had Kyrie Irving on the show back when all LeBron James stuff was crazy. He asked him about LeBron. Next thing you know, you wake up and it's everywhere. You know, so like it's just learn how to play the cards right, you know. And it also too, you gotta think about protecting relationships. So sometimes you can go so controversy, you ain't never doing this again. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I see people do it. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I would have done that, but you could do it, and you just won't ever do it again. But you'll get what you wanted out of it.
Nah, that's a fact. As work was wrapping up, man, you know, Clubhouse has been, I feel like, a game changer for you. You know, and like I said, we're wrapping up, so. What can people take from your move on Clubhouse? You know, you've built up a crazy club, I think one of the top clubs on Clubhouse. You know, walk us through some easy to execute tips you can use for Clubhouse.
Yeah, man, listen, man. Like, people say that, and I'm like, yo, you have no idea how bad I wish I could really get up there. Here's the crazy thing about the following that I built on Clubhouse. I'm only consistent on showing up one day a week, one time. Mondays, 10 p.m. Eastern. Grown the club to almost 30,000 people, following it almost about 16,000. And I'm saying to myself, man, if I slept on this app like everybody else, well, God almighty. You know what I'm saying? But you got to ask yourself this, is what can you really, truly dedicate to another platform? So if that's all you can dedicate to, when you show up, show out. Don't dim your light. You know, you have some type of credibility, some type of authority, state it. Raise your hand, get on that stage, let people hear your voice. I think what worked for me at Clubhouse is that people started really hearing my voice. They started hearing my story. And I think what really, truly resonated with them is that they started seeing things in me that either represented something in them or somebody they know that they just, you know, liked, loved, wanted to hang around or wanted to work with. And I think that's really the key, man, being who you are and showing up and letting your tribe find you. The club was obviously a game changer because I wanted a community of podcasters, and the community started coming in. And there's other podcast clubs too. And here's the thing. I've dipped into a couple of them. I listened to a couple of the rooms, but I'm all about energy and vibes, and they don't got the same vibe. You know, and I think that's what you got to figure out is how do you create that? And I know that because so many people have told me that, you know, so I've been very protective of how that has rolled out. It wasn't until about 2 weeks ago where I started making people that I truly trusted to be administrators. You guys mentioned Mario Armstrong. He now has a night on Podcast Secrets Revealed. Kate Casey has one of the highest rated TV shows. Highest rated TV podcasts and film. She has a night, you know. So I'm very particular about people. I vetted the mess out of them because I want to make sure if the club's called Podcast Secrets Revealed, you're getting something from it. So the number one tip is raise your hand, get on stage, and if you can't get on stage, create your own room. And you think about a title, create a title that you want to tap on, right? I did a room last Monday, and the title was "Here's Things About Podcasting Nobody is Talking About." Right? Everyone tells you about equipment, but no one's telling you about the difficulties, the stress, the people dismissing you, the rejection. So I did it, So think about what you want to tap, and then I think that'll work for you.
Shawn, what to you makes a great podcaster? If you can say 5 things that make a great podcaster, what makes a great podcaster to you?
One, that shut up and listen, ask the question and let it sit. The next is be crazy curious. Stop watching everybody's stuff. You watch enough people, you watch everybody's stuff, you're gonna start asking questions everybody asking. And then the last thing I would say is be who you are. This is the audio game, right? Be who you are, and don't be afraid that you don't look right or you might not sound right. That uniqueness might be the way you stand out.
And that was a podcaster, right? Now let's talk about the podcast show. What makes a great podcast show with everything you've learned since you started your journey?
A catchy title, one that feels like I'm coming along with you, one that just feels like it's going to answer a question, and most importantly, I would say one that just has a vibe around it that feels like a community.
Got it.
That's huge. That's big. All right. Now, working towards wrapping up, where can people find you?
Yeah, man. You find me on all social platforms at Shawn Anthony _. It is the only one. There's a lot of fake pages of me. At Shawn Anthony _ is my official Instagram page. You can find me anywhere. You can find us at schoolsovernowwhat.com and listen to the podcast at Schools Over Now What on all social media platforms. And we drop a new episode every single Friday. So be sure to tune in.
Awesome. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, hustle is what you can control. So control your grind and control your life. I'm Alex.
And I'm Owen.
And you are?
I'm like, yo, y'all froze? I'm Shawn Anthony, man.
There you go.
There you
make
go.
sure you skip that part out. Yo, just remember, dream it, believe it, go out and get it. I'm like, damn, say thing. We out.
Yeah,
man. All right, hustle over everything, y'all. Peace
Peace out.